Well, hello and welcome on into another episode of Around the World in 80 Stays. I'm your host, Sean Keane, and today we are here with Koro Castillo, a very super special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself and not only where her stay was, but her multiple stays were.
Hi, everybody. My name is Koro Castillo. I am a Spanish and French double major with a certificate in Latin American Studies, and I studied in Sevilla, Spain, San Sebastian, Spain, and Lyon, France.
So Koro is coming at us today as a triple threat, and this is an incredible opportunity to get to talk to someone else who is a triple threat when it comes to studying abroad. It is a real privilege to be able to do that 3 times, and Koro, we are going to pick your brain through a lot of it because studying abroad once is great, but 3 times I think you've really picked up a lot of nuances, a lot of patterns, a lot of things that, people probably need to know about this. So let's start chronologically. Your first study abroad. Talk to us about when you were thinking about studying abroad, why you chose where you wanted to go, and what your first thoughts or anxieties were before your first study abroad.
Yeah, so study abroad has always been something I wanted to do, like forever. My dad's from Spain, and so my family is kind of multicultural, and I've spent a lot of time in Spain growing up. And so, like, traveling and kind of having life experiences in a different place other than the U.S. has always been, like, a thing I've done. And I knew, like, wherever I went to college, study abroad was something I was going to do. Like, just...
By any means necessary,
Yes.
You were going to do this.
Yes. So, I mean, Iowa has great study abroad programs. I knew that it would be a good place to come. And then when I was looking at study abroad programs, I went the spring of my sophomore year. And I think I met with the study abroad people at the beginning of my sophomore year, but I even had that plan like freshman year. I was like, okay, like I'm going to figure everything out. Like I want to go spring of my sophomore year. So
you had been long gaming this for a while, haven't you?
Yeah. So I went and I'm a heritage speaker of Spanish. I grew up speaking Spanish, so I knew that I wanted something very advanced because the study abroad was going to be for me to challenge myself. Although I knew I wanted to go to Spain as well, so I could connect with my heritage and kind of like be an adult in Spain and like have my own independence there because I always go with my family.
Being an adult in Spain is such a wonderful thing, isn't it?
It's so great. Like it was amazing. So yeah, I landed on this program in Sevilla because they have advanced liberal arts in Sevilla. Really, the only 3 cities were Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, and so. In the end, I chose Sevilla because they had advanced liberal arts, and I knew that's something I wanted to do. And in the end, I'm really glad I chose Sevilla.
So in the very first episode that we did, we had someone come on and talk about how she had been to Rome before because she interned in Rome, and she has family from southern Italy, so she wanted to connect to that heritage as well. And you had said you'd been to Spain and lived in Spain. Did you have any big experiences with Sevilla before, or was this going to be a whole new part of Spain that you were unlocking by going?
So I'd been to Sevilla once before, and my family... my parents are both Spanish professors, and my dad did an exchange with a university also in southern Spain in Andalusia, in a different province called Jaén. So I had lived there. I lived there for 8 months when I was in 2nd grade. So
in Sevilla?
In Jaén, which is also in southern Spain. And so we'd been to Sevilla when we were living down there, and so I was kind of familiar with like the culture in southern Spain, but I'd been a kid, and so I was really excited to go back and to kind of rediscover that. And also Sevilla is like very culturally distinct, like just in and of itself as a city. So like there were some things that were familiar, but there were a lot of things that were very new.
So going as an adult now, getting ready to take off and this was a semester long one, correct?
Yes.
What were some of like the worries and anxieties you had? Because you knew kind of how this was going to be, but at the same time, it's totally different and in a totally different context, and you're going alone, or I'm assuming you went mostly alone. What were some of the worries that you had starting that?
I mean, there's the common worry with study abroad about making friends, and I went totally alone. There were a couple students from Iowa, but I'd never met them, and like we weren't connected at all before we went. So I just went in totally blind, like on the friend side of things, and I was really worried about it, but literally within like the 2nd day of the program, I already had my friend group, and that was great. And then the other thing I was really worried about was my host family. like just living in someone else's home is really nerve-wracking, and not knowing like who these people are, and I had looked up where they lived, and it was like kind of far from like the CIE building, like where I did all my classes. And so that was the most stressful thing for me, was like, oh my gosh, I have to go live in someone else's home. Like, what is it going to be like?
You're living with grandparents in Spain, but not your Spanish grandparents specifically.
Right.
Whole new ball game.
Yeah, totally new.
So talk to me about the classes that you took, because this was a semester-long affair. What were the classes like?
So since I was doing advanced liberal arts, I did half of my classes at a local university with like actual Spanish students, like from Spain. And then I did my other half with American students at CIEE, which was the agency that did the study abroad. I did 2 really great classes at CIEE. I did a class about flamenco, which is like a traditional music and dance from southern Spain. And then I did one about women writers from the 20th century in Spain, which was great. I like really liked reading about feminist literature and everything. And then the classes at the local university that was a really big shock to me, because the Spanish education system is totally different from the US one, especially their philosophy about teaching and learning and everything. And so those classes were quite difficult, and it was very different. The professors have this idea, like when you go to a class, all you do is you sit and you listen to the professor the entire class. And like here, I feel like everything, especially in my language classes, it's very discussion based. Everyone's participating all the time. Totally the opposite in Spain. Totally the opposite. Like just a professor there telling you everything. And the only assignment you did was an exam at the end of the semester. No assignments in between to get your grade. The only thing was a final exam. So here you are, just like listening to your professor in your classes. You just have to write everything down super fast, try to catch everything, because in the final exam, they expect you to show off like everything that you've learned throughout the semester.
So it's all on the line.
It's all on the line. And like halfway through my semester in Sevilla, I kind of realized that, and I was like, I should have done pass-fail. And like I'd missed the deadline to do pass-fail, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I'm going to have to lock in right now.
Well, break down more of that like emergency that you had of, oh shoot, things just got really, really real. I can't change anything like that. How did you approach that? How did you take that on? Because like you don't want to be failing all this stuff. You don't want to waste money. You got to get the credits too. What was that like? How did you approach that?
I first emailed my study abroad advisor here, and I was like, hey, can I do pass-fail? Because the like content for these classes was starting to add up, and I was like, oh my, like the professors were starting to talk about the final exam, and they were basically like, you're just gonna have to know everything from the semester. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is nothing like what I've done before, really, because in the US you like have all these different assignments that kind of build upon each other. And so I emailed my advisor, and she was like, yeah, you missed the deadline by a week. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to figure out something else.
Important lesson in checking deadlines too, by the way.
You should check the deadlines. And so I went to the people at CIE, and I got a tutor, and she was super cool, and she was super nice. She was for like a linguistics class that I took, and she like totally helped me. It was me and the 2 other girls from like the CIE program that were in this class at the local university. We all had meetings with this tutor, and she helped us so much just to like know what was going to be on the exam. When she took the class, she had taken the exact class from the exact professor that we were taking it from. And so she helped us so much. And yeah, they have tutors. Like CIE has people that they can connect you with, which is incredible.
So you, of course, are a heritage speaker. Your parents are from there. They are Spanish professors. You have spent time there. You speak Spanish. How did you see your Spanish change, or what were some of the expectations that you had of like, oh yeah, I've been here before. I got this. Like I already speak Spanish. But then when you get there and you actually have to live it, not just, staying for a little bit, especially as an adult, like you said, how did you see things change with your Spanish and your understanding, and how you presented yourself not only as like, oh, I'm a heritage person and I know this and I'm studying it, but also still trying to learn?
Yeah, so I feel like some heritage speakers might relate to me on this. relate with me on this. Like, I feel like a lot of the times my Spanish is like kid Spanish almost. The only time I'd use Spanish up until starting college was just like at home. So like I'm not learning like the slang that like young people in Spain are saying, and I'm not learning like a bunch of these like vocabulary terms that like you do like in like everyday life, like in a city, like beyond the home. You know what I mean?
You learned what you needed to learn and then just kind of stuck with that.
Right. Yeah. Like when you're in the US and like all your friends speak English, and especially like growing up, like school was in English, obviously, it's really hard to like want to use your Spanish. Like my dad would always like speak Spanish. Like Spanish was spoken in the home, but like my brother and I would always respond to him in English because it's just, I think heritage speakers will relate. Like, I don't know, you're like, I'm living my life in English. Like, I just feel like speaking English. And yeah, so it was like finally entering this place where like Spanish was the main language. Sometimes you'll just like have random brain farts and you'll be like, I have no idea what this word is, or, you know, but my host family was super helpful, and like they were just impressed, like in general, that I could speak any Spanish because they'd had a bunch of American students before. But yeah, I feel like slang, like getting along with like young people there was hard. And then just like,
Because you tell them like, oh, I'm Spanish, or like my parents are Spanish, I've been here before, but then at the same time, you can't really relate to them on the levels that you probably most need to relate to them
right.
with.
Yeah, like culturally also, I've grown up in the US. Like I've spent most of my time in the US. It was so weird because it's like, yes, like I can speak Spanish like fluently, obviously, but I still felt American a lot of the times, you know?
So, you know, you were having a hard time maybe assimilating, but you still got into that. How did you feel as time went along, that you were maybe hopefully a little more assimilated property, or you gained a little bit of confidence, or maybe even a new perspective on your Spanishness, but also the fact that your Spanishness comes from a very isolated environment? How did that happen for you? Did that happen?
It did happen. I think almost like as I became more familiar with my environment in the city, I also like obviously felt more comfortable like being myself, and like kind of was able to expand just yeah, like my comfortability with everything. There was a really interesting kind of person there. One of the student helpers at CIE, which are like Spanish students that they hire to kind of like help the Americans like get to know the city and everything. Her mom was American, and her dad was Spanish, but she had spent most of her life in Spain. And it was really interesting because she basically had like the same problems as me, but like the other way around. Like her mom would always speak to her in English, but she would never want to speak to her mom in English. Like she would always respond to her mom in Spanish. And so she really helped me realize like it's okay to like kind of have like this mix of two cultures and like not be like absolutely perfect at like being both, you know? I didn't necessarily like get better at anything, but I think I did get better at accepting that I don't have to be fully one thing and fully another thing.
It was a clarification of your existing identities,
Yes.
would you say? Okay, I'm going to keep us going here because we have a lot more study abroad to talk about, and I'm so excited for this. You are the first of the people that I have interviewed and talked with who has stayed in a host family for their trip, and I want you to talk about the host family experience because so many people are so nervous about host families. What are they going to think of me? What is the language level like? You know, am I going to be able to eat? Are they just going to cook? Whatever. All of these very founded anxieties. But talk to us about that, because in only one of my study abroads, and actually when I went to Spain, I did have a host family. Shout outs Carmen and Pepe. They were amazing. It was really great, but I know I was insanely nervous about a host family beforehand. So talk to us about the host family experience.
So I actually lived with two host families for like two different programs, and it was very interesting, like the differences between them too. But in general, your host family is a lot nicer than like you think. Like they're very welcoming, and they really like communication is key. So like my host dad, I had to pack a lunch for like 3 of my days of classes because I wasn't gonna have time to come home, and he like was like, okay, if you need a lunch any day, you just have to tell me. Like you have to tell me the night before. And I think one day we messed up and like he didn't make me a lunch because I forgot to tell him. But like really anything you need, your host family, you just have to communicate. And so yeah, they were super welcoming. I had 2 host siblings. The son was slightly younger than me and the daughter was slightly older than me, and it was really interesting like having 2 people like similar to my age living with me. Yeah, these people most likely have had children before, and if not, they're really nice and they've had students in their home before. And so just know that like they want to help you, and yeah.
So I think it's a little, or might be a little more difficult for you to put into perspective just because you are a Spanish heritage speaker and you're used to speaking it at home. But what was the communication like?
My host family had my first host family in Sevilla. They'd had like 15 American students before I came. And so they're also their kids had been studying English like all of like school basically since they were kids. So they had like figured out ways to kind of work through that. I think the kids did a lot of translating for like their former students, and like your host families, especially if they've had students before, they will know like words in English and stuff. But also they really encourage that you try to speak Spanish, and they know that you're learning. So they're very flexible. Yeah, I would say don't be worried about speaking Spanish because that's what you're there to do.
So I will put for my host family experience, just kind of on the opposite end of that. You talked about 15 years of getting students and hosting, and that's amazing. I will up you with my host family in Spain, in my program, had been hosting for 40 years.
Holy moly.
40 years they'd been doing this. And they're incredible people, and I love them with all of my heart. And they, over 40 years, and their kids had studied in the U.S. too. And I was a little bit like, okay, come on. But they really did not know a whole lot of English, even after all these years of hosting American students. And it was kind of a game, not like a game, but kind of a game and a thing that we had where my roommate and I for this, we would sit down and our host dad, Pepe, would tell us about, or would try to say like, thank you very much, or these just different little phrases in English. And it was so wholesome and so amazing. But at the same time, I was like, dang, 40 years. And they just, didn't pick it up. But I think they helped so many people learn by just almost this strict refusal, because they don't have to. And you may in your programs get a host family who like really has limited English or other language knowledge. But the way that I and my roommate learned through that, and just there was no English, we had no crutches, I was so appreciative of that. I was incredibly appreciative of that. And then you also talked about like your host dad being, okay, I'll make you a lunch, or if you like something, I'll get it for you. So this is an experience that a lot of people have talked to me about who've had host families. And you probably had something like this too, where if you say you like something to your host family, they get all of that. All the time, and you are inundated with this. So to, again, continue with my little anecdote here, my roommate, Andy, shout outs to Andy, man. He, the first few days we were there, was sick to his stomach. So he was just eating bananas because bananas were helping him. Carmen, our host mom, she thought like, oh, Andy, will take these for breakfast, because Andy doesn't really eat breakfast either. So he was just taking one for breakfast to help his stomach. There you go. She thought, oh, he's eating these for breakfast. He only eats those. And like, I eat bananas too. I enjoy bananas. I'll just get bananas for them because they like that every morning. We were inundated with bananas for 6 weeks. All we ate for 6 weeks was bananas, obviously cooking other stuff, but like bananas were right there. And one morning, Carmen forgot to get bananas. And let me tell you, she was distraught, and she was apologizing to Andy, and she was just, it was bad. And we were like, oh, thank God, we actually have a reprieve from eating bananas one day. But that is something that I found with a lot of host families, no matter the country, no matter the culture. If you like something, they'll just get you more of it. So do be careful with what you say you like. I don't know if you had maybe a specific one. Do you?
Well, it happened to me that it was the same thing with breakfast. They had like these like mini like muffins and stuff, like, and they like the host dad, the first day I had breakfast, he was like, do you like these? And I was like, yes. And then that was my breakfast for the rest of the semester. And I was like, okay, like they're not bad. But yeah, like, if you get tired of something, just tell your host family.
Please do tell them, because you're not going to get any kind of reprieve from this food at all. Do you like these are very dangerous words. Tell them yes, but you have to add more to that. Yeah. That's really funny, and I'm glad that your host family was good to you, at least in this first one. So to keep us moving on this one, after your semester, give us your biggest takeaways, and also what you liked about Sevilla, because I have been to Sevilla and it was for one day. It was really hot and I had to see the entire city in one day and I loved it. But what did you find within the niches of Sevilla during your time there?
Sevilla is a very, very special place. It's a beautiful city. It's a very historic city. And the city center is very small, but has so much packed into it. And I got to walk through it every single day when I went to class. And basically, like, any building you walk past is like a historic building and has like an insane history. And Sevilla has gone through with, there were Muslims living in Sevilla, there were Jews living in Sevilla, and there were Christians living in Sevilla in different moments and overlapping. And these three cultures like totally come together in the city. And so, like, for learning like Spanish history and just like if you want to learn about culture, it's such a special place because it's just all around you. It's everywhere. And every weekend you can visit a different palace where someone lived, and the architecture is so revealing of all the different cultures that have been there. So it's a very special city. I really liked that. Public transportation, learn how to use it because it's so useful. Some people are afraid of public transportation. Just take like the first few uncomfortable days of using it, and like it's like life changing because it saves you so much time.
Do not be afraid of it, please. Wherever you go, if you take one message from this entire show, please use public transportation for the love of God.
Yeah, it's really nice. What else? I think the thing I think I took away from Sevilla the most was just in Europe, like it's so much older than like all like the historic buildings and stuff in the US that like just by being there you can learn so much history, and that was the most fascinating thing to me, I think.
Go to Sevilla, get lots of history, become cultured, walk through it again. Beautiful, amazing city. So Study Abroad 1 has been completed. It was, I'm assuming, a blast, absolutely life-changing, wonderful, beautiful. Study Abroad number 2. How did this come about? What was the catalyst for this? And where did you go?
Catalyst was I got an incredible scholarship, which I don't know if we're going to talk about funding later, but I got a great scholarship from the Spanish department, and it was the Genevieve Davis Searle Scholarship. And it was $10,000 for 2 consecutive study abroad programs in a Spanish-speaking country, which means I could have done Spain and then a different Spanish-speaking country, but that would have been a lot to get like across the Atlantic Ocean like that. But so yes, that's why I went immediately after my spring in Sevilla. I went to northern Spain for a summer session. And I really wanted to go to northern Spain because that's where my dad is from. And San Sebastian is an incredible city. And these like southern Spain and northern Spain are super different, and so it felt like almost going to a different country just because they have totally different cultures.
Talk about those differences and the differences in culture, because you're right, it's complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And where San Sebastian is, people aren't even speaking Spanish, they're not even speaking Castellano. So what was that like for you?
So in San Sebastian the people there are Basque, and so they speak the Basque language, which is called Euskera. Everyone also speaks Spanish, especially because there's a lot of tourism in San Sebastian. But the language is completely unrelated to Spanish. Actually, it's completely unrelated to any other language that exists, it's like a really big mystery in the linguistics world. Actually,
we love language isolates.
Yeah, so like the Basque culture in and of itself is it's a group right there in northern Spain. That is totally different from all other Spanish culture. Southern Spain also is a lot more rural, and it's almost like the south and the north of the US, just like people have a different accent, people are a little more conservative, it's just different, people act different. Yeah, and I would say kind of similar to the north, and in the north people are a little bit more quiet, a little bit more reserved. Yeah.
So we're going from a Houston, Texas kind of, thing in the South up to, Minneapolis, Minnesota, or someone in Minnesota of this more quieter, Midwestern, northerly kind of culture.
Yes, it really is kind of similar to that, yeah.
So it's a language isolate, but it's a culture isolate up there too. And not all of Spanish culture, even within Spain, is one thing, of course, but what were the cultural differences in living there that you noticed?
Well, food is a big thing. And in northern Spain, they have these things called pinchos, which are kind of like tapas, but not really. It's like San Sebastian, especially as a city, is very famous for these pinchos. And they're basically like these small little bites. And like whenever you go into a bar, there's just this huge case right on top of the bar, and it just has all the different pinchos laid out. This is like a huge cultural thing. And you go up to the bartender and you say, I would like one of these. I would like one of these. They're basically like all under €5 if you like go to the right place. And it's like a very big cultural thing, pinchos. They also had this really fun event called Pincho Pote on Thursdays, which was every time you got a pincho, you got a free drink. And so that attracted a lot of young people, which was really fun. But yeah, food is a big thing. Also, there's like kind of a political and cultural thing. So the Basque people were very repressed during the dictatorship in Spain. And so there's a really big just like political difference in like how people see like the rest of Spain, and some people don't even feel Spanish there. And a lot of times you will see like the Basque flag up like on a lot of different balconies, and other like political symbols of like the Basque country, which was also completely different from southern Spain. And then there are also, in the Basque Country, like different cultural events. There's something called San Fermines, which takes place in Pamplona, which is a different city in the Basque Country, which is the running of the bulls with everyone wears the little red bandana around their neck, and like the bulls chase them down the streets. It's like a super famous scene in a bunch of different movies.
City Slickers is the one that I saw it from. That's probably one of the more lesser known movies that has that in it, but I know it from City Slickers.
Yeah, and I actually got to go. I got to go to Pamplona. I did not do the whole running with the bulls part of it, but my host family and I did wake up every morning, because they do it for a whole week, at like 7 in the morning or 8. I don't know. It's probably 8 because Spanish people don't wake up early. But they do it. They broadcast it every morning, and we would watch it like as if it were like the most entertaining thing ever, which it is pretty entertaining. So that was super fun, huge cultural event, especially during the summer. And I have friends from my program that went and did run with the bulls. It's also a massive party, and people are just drinking like all day. So,
see, and anything that happens in Pamplona or during these kind of celebrations, you don't tell your parents or the study abroad program until after you come back, because it's an amazing time, but the activities are crazy there. So you talked about your host family, where not only are we in different parts of Spain from your two programs, but what were the differences in host family? What was your Basque host family like?
my Basque host family was really special. It was my host mom, Graciela, and she had one of her sons living with her because he had gotten into a motorcycle accident like 10 years before I'd met them. And he'd completely lost the ability to walk and talk and had to relearn all of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And his name's Nico, and he is like, we just got along so well. He like lived with us. And so my host family in San Sebastian, they had a lot more time to spend with me because it was summer, and because Nico, like the son, he wasn't a student anymore or anything. So I spent a lot of time with them. Like my host mom and I, we would just go out and like walk along the coastline together like often, and they would take me to dinner, and Nico would like always come home from a long day and have like a bunch of things to say about the day. And they were a really nice family and great food. It was amazing. And yeah, it was nice. I think because it was summer, like people weren't working as much and stuff. And so I got to spend a lot of quality time with them, which was really special.
Did they make you learn Basque or anything like that?
They did not, because my host mom didn't speak Basque, unfortunately.
Really, dude?
Yes, I know.
You're in the Basque country. You have a host family, and you get the one woman who don't speak Basque.
Well, the truth is, in bigger cities, in the Basque country, there are some people who don't speak it. Like, it's more of like a small town thing where people really like center in on speaking only Basque. And also, she grew up during the dictatorship, which was when Basque was not allowed to be taught in schools. So, of course, she knew a couple words, and they taught me a few words. And all of her kids did know it, but also I didn't speak it. So we did stick to only speaking Spanish, unfortunately. But I mean, even that story, like with my host mom who didn't speak it and her kids who did, you get to learn about like the history of the Basque Country just through the family that you live with, which is really interesting.
And are you still in contact with either of your host families?
I am in contact with my family from San Sebastian. Actually, Nico just sent me a message that I need to respond to.
Well, don't let me take your time. You need to get to this clearly.
I know.
That's really sweet, and that's really, really special. And that's another thing that I want people to know, too, when talking about host families, is that very rarely will you get a bad experience. Usually it's because you have just completely screwed everything up and they don't want to talk to you. But to continue to have maintained connections with host family is such a deep and joyous and enriching experience to have. And I, unfortunately, am not still in contact with my host family from Spain. I wish I was more, but they are very busy people. Like the day Andy and I left, they were taking in another cohort. And then after that, they had another cohort. And it was just all those kinds of things. So I wished I would have kept in contact, but I know so many people who stayed in contact with their families, and it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to continue that life afterwards. Cause you got to tell your San Sebastian host family, like, what's going on in Iowa, man?
Yeah. Nico wants to come visit me in Iowa. And I'm like, bro, you do not want to come to Iowa. But yeah, send them a Christmas card. Like if your family sends out Christmas cards, send your host family a Christmas card, because I sent one to my host family and they loved it. So that's just a little tip.
You know, I may have to actually take you up on that. I should probably talk to Carmen and Pepe at some point. This is a good reminder. It's not only a learning for everyone else, but it's a learning for me too. And I thank you for that. So you've finished in Sevilla. You've finished in San Sebastian. You've got the two spectrums of Spain, or the two sides of the spectrum, I should say, of Spain. And you did it back to back. You right away. Now, how do you view Spain? What did you take away from this big grand adventure that you had in Spain, where you really, again, got to see both sides of the spectrum and could inform your experience a lot more, and also experience it as an adult? Because that is the best thing to do, is to experience Spain as an adult.
I guess Spain is really fun. That was like my thought. Like, wow, I would really love to live in Spain. It's such a great life, and people really enjoy life in Spain. And the culture just allows for you to like just spend so much time with people and be outside and eat and drink. And like, I really just enjoyed my time. And it reaffirmed for me that like Spain is just a place, it's a place where you should be. Like it's a great, and now like I keep on, like getting ready to graduate and stuff. I'm like trying to find ways. I'm like, how can I spend more time in Spain? Like, how can I move there and get a job where I could go work there? Yeah, I think that was like my number one thing, is just, I just love it.
And I'm sure you're absolutely just cursing your parents for making you grow up in Iowa or wherever you grew up instead of Spain, because I agree, Spain is the place to be. If there is heaven on earth, it's probably Spain. That or Fiji. I've heard Fiji's very nice. One of my teachers in Spain put it to me this way, that Spain is the Florida of Europe, and that everyone wants to retire and die there. And I am in agreement, and I will be one of those Floridians. I hope one day. Please let me retire and die in Spain, because it is wonderful. And I'm glad that it was such a fulfilling experience for you to understand that this lifestyle is pretty all right, but really round out maybe a part of your identity that you didn't necessarily have rounded out or fully solidified, clarified before. So you've gone through 2 study abroads now. Oh my goodness, that is a lot back to back. Now we're going to a third one. What was the third one like? Give us the catalyst. How did we get here?
Yeah, so I got back to Iowa. It was my junior year, and I was taking classes and whatever, and it got to like trying to figure out like, oh, do I need to get an internship this summer? Like summer of junior year, everyone's getting internships. Like,
the answer is no, no pressure.
Yeah, and I just started thinking about it, and then the French department. See, I just love departmental scholarships. The French department was like, hey, we have this thing going on. If you become a French major, because I was a French minor at the time, they were like, if you become a French major, we'll give you a scholarship. And I was like, ooh, like maybe I should go study abroad again, get some credits to add on to my French minor, and then I'll basically just be a French major. Like, it'll be way easier to become a French major. I'll get the scholarship, and like, I mean, what could go wrong? So that's exactly what I did. I think I turned in my application for this program in France, like literally the day it was due. Like, I did everything super last minute. The professors that I asked like for letters of recommendation from, I think I like told them, I was like, hey guys, like the deadline's in a week. If you guys could.
And I am not trying to have an internship this summer, so hurry up.
No, seriously, I was like, I need to just study abroad again. Like, no internship, no nothing. Like, this is what I really love to do, and I should just take advantage of it while I'm young and while I'm in college, and well, I can get credits from it anyways. So yeah, I got everything in, and then decided, yeah, like I'm gonna go to Lyon.
And so now you're doing it for French. And you're not in Paris either. This is like you're in the deep end now of French studies. What was it like being in Lyon?
Well, it was interesting because I feel like when you hear about France, and like even in my French classes, you talk a lot about Paris. Like Paris is this huge city. It's like a global, like huge icon of France.
It's the most city.
Right, yeah. So I really had no idea what to expect of Lyon, but it was a really nice city. It was still a big city. It's the third largest city in France. They have great public transportation, which I love. They have really good food. That's what they're known for. And in general, I went to Paris twice. 2 of the 4 weeks, like those weekends that I was there, I went to Paris. I really loved Paris.
You can't escape it.
It's great to be close to Paris, but it's also great to not have to be living in Paris because Paris is super expensive and super busy. And Lyon just offers you like some calm. And that's what everyone from Lyon would tell you too. Like, yeah, Paris is great, but like if you like want to just live like a calm, normal life, like you can still be in a city. It doesn't have to be Paris. Just come to Lyon.
And you talked about Lyonese food. What is Lyonese food like? Because again, France we associate with Paris and Parisian cuisine and culture. But what is Lyonese food? What do we need to be in the know about that?
Well, so the most typical restaurant in Lyon is called a bouchon. And I did not go to a bouchon because the description kind of scared me. They basically take like just a bunch of different parts of like animals and like decide to make meals out of them, like intestines and all this other. It just did not sound good to me, so I did not go to the bouchon.
You know, as someone who wants to encourage people to take experiences outside the box and to really expand their horizons, you're honestly kind of valid for that. Because if I saw that, they putting intestines and liver and like hooves in there, no, I'm okay.
Yeah, well, honestly, I probably should have gone. I kind of regret it. Like, I ran out of time. I wish I'd had more time there. But the nice thing about Lyon, like being kind of like a gastronomic capital in France, is that they had great food from a bunch of other cultures as well. And so we honestly tried like a bunch of food from a bunch of other cultures, which is really good. And then the thing I liked the most in France was the croissants and all the other pastries.
As someone who studied in Paris, the croissants and the pastries is just such an amazing perk of that. Oh my goodness, I do love that so much. So what were you doing for these 4 weeks when you were in Lyon? Were you French immersion specifically, or were you taking other classes, or were you doing something else there?
So I was taking classes in French towards my French major. I took a 1-credit conversation class, and then I took a 3-credit French women writers class, which I'd taken a Spanish women writers class in Spain, and so I was really excited to take this. And it was a quite challenging class. We read 8 books in 4 weeks, most of them novels.
Whoa.
All in French. And
Sacre bleu. Pardon my terrible French.
Yeah, it was crazy, but there were only 4 of us in the class, so it was a really nice, like, individualized experience, and we had great conversations. And the professor was a visiting professor from Northern Arizona University, and I really enjoyed the class. It was kind of a lot of work, but I feel like with study abroad, you get assigned a lot of work, and you do have homework, and it's like somehow you just get it done, and you still find your time to have fun and explore everything, and like, you look at an assignment and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be crazy. And then somehow it gets done and everything's fine. And I survived.
And you survived and had a good time with it too, and got a lot about French literature. Very good. So at the beginning, you had said your biggest worry was about making friends. and you went to 3 different cohorts, 3 different groups, programs with 3 different groups of people, I'm assuming coming for different reasons and from different backgrounds. What were your friend groups like through each one? Did you find there was a lot of cohesion and continuity, or did you find different friends based on whatever situation you were in at the time with whatever program?
The first thing I'll say about making friends abroad is it's people that like you would never expect to become friends with. Like people from just all a bunch of different places in the US, people with and there were even some international students in some of my programs, and people with completely different majors and just like completely different lives from you. And it's really funny. One of my friends in my latest program, she was saying, I feel like I learned so much about like US culture too, like about so many different states and like you really just get to know people that you would never have met otherwise, and you're all sharing this new thing, and you know that all these people also care about like a global education, and you know that they're open-minded because they're studying abroad just like you are. And so you meet really special people, and everyone is totally different, and everyone was totally different in all of my programs. It's just great because you have, you don't have to worry necessarily about like the future or like really dramatic things because everyone's just there to have a good time, and everyone knows that you're not going to be there for long. And so I just think it's a really special type of friendship.
I agree with what you said about learning more about America and just the differences that we have, because I remember when I went to Chile, we were from all over the place, but a lot of people, especially people not West Coast, but just from the West, had never met Midwesterners before. They'd rarely been outside of like the West kind of area. And they were so curious to know about me. Like I was talking about Chileans, or 2 Chileans where I'm from. And they're like, yeah, but the people from just the West were like, this is crazy. It's a whole new world. And my best friend from that program, Riley, she is from Oregon, goes to school in Washington State. And she actually just came here to come visit me and to come see Iowa. She had to see what Iowa was all about. And I hope one day I'll be able to go out to Seattle, because she goes to school around there, and see that. But I got to learn a lot about different regions of the U.S. from there. And then when I was studying in Paris, too, I was the only person of my 20-ish person cohort who was from the Midwest. Everyone was from a coast or a coastal adjacent thing. And we spent a lot of time sharing different perspectives on different things. They weren't particularly keen to learn about Iowa. I was like, yeah, it's cornfields, and I'm also not technically from Iowa. I'm originally from Missouri, but it basically the same thing to them. But we got to share a lot of perspectives about being American and our different views on that and how different regional things shape that. So I agree with you. That's a really, really fun part about studying abroad. It's just what you can learn about the U.S. But my next question is then, are you going to bring any of these friends to Iowa? And are you still in contact with a lot of these groups?
I am, and I went last year. I visited quite a few of my friends over in Washington, D.C., like just people from all over the East Coast. We kind of like met there. I honestly kind of like talked down on Iowa, and I'm like, guys, it's not worth it to come to Iowa. Like, I don't want them to come here. It's so boring. I would rather go to like D.C. or something. But no, I actually, this last program, I had a roommate, and she's from Ohio, and we've been making plans. She wants to come to Iowa, and I'm like, okay. I feel like Ohio's like a good place where you're like, you won't think Iowa's so lame.
She's probably in the know on like most Midwest
Right.
isms and cultures. I mean, Ohio's right at the convergence between that Rust Belt Midwest kind of thing. So it wouldn't be too different. But I will say for my friend Riley who came here, the just endless agricultural fields and the flatness, that was definitely a surprise for her. But there's beauty in that. You got to tell them that there's beauty in that. And there's beauty in Iowa. We might not have a ton of stuff for you to do, but there's beauty in what we do have. So you definitely gotta rep that for something. So bringing everything full circle, we have now gone through 3 study abroads, all of them just kind of bang, 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 but very different ones too. What is it that you have learned and taken away from all 3 of these?
I think the biggest thing is like when you go abroad and like when you leave everything from home behind, you have this place like where you're just completely free to like discover who you are. And even with like the new friends and everything, like it's you can almost reinvent yourself. I mean, you learn so much about yourself and about how you manage new situations and how you manage stressful things like really hard classes or something. Yeah, it's just it's a lot of like personal growth. Yeah.
So people, for just getting one study abroad, a lot of them are intimidated about costs and feasibility of that. And to be able to have studied abroad not only a second time, but a third time is such a privilege and a blessing. But talk about the feasibility of studying not only once, but twice, and even a third time. And you had said that you wanted to talk maybe a little bit about scholarships and how that happened for you.
Yeah, so study abroad became very, very affordable for me because I applied for merit scholarships and they really helped out in funding study abroad. And also a lot of your scholarships from like you get every semester like at Iowa to study here can also transfer over to study abroad. And so it almost was the same cost as being here. Which was really, really nice. And so, yeah, I would say that there is a way, like with financial aid, to afford study abroad. And all you have to do is talk to your advisor, and you do have to do a little bit of extra work and apply for the funding. But there are so many different opportunities. There are a lot of like private donors, people who put together money just for students who are studying abroad because they had a really great international experience and they want other students to experience that as well. So just look and see what your options are for scholarships because the departments have their own scholarships. International programs have their own scholarships. There's a lot of different options for getting funding, and I would say take the don't rule out study abroad because it's expensive because there is a way.
And coming soon in the future, the Koro Castillo Foundation will help benefactor many students because, yeah, giving back for studying abroad too is you'll find that there's so many people out there who want to help you go along your way studying abroad because they had such an amazing and positive experience in whatever capacity that they studied abroad. And even if they didn't, they might just be really passionate about giving students that experience. So definitely the money is there. We've talked about this in other episodes. We'll continue to talk about it in the future. Resources, study abroad, department, talk with them, do that. So I want to ask, I have two questions. We'll start with the first one. And this one's going to be intentionally difficult because I was asked this question once by one of my friends. And I think it's a question that only really applies to you and I, at least from the people I've met who studied abroad. Where do you rank your study abroads? And it doesn't have to be from best to worst, but where do you rank your study abroads? What stood out to you to make these rankings be as such? And I'll give you a second to think on it. Don't worry.
Okay. I think my number one is San Sebastian. I'm going to give all three first, and then I'll explain. Number one, San Sebastian. Number two, Sevilla. Number three, Lyon. San Sebastian, I put first. My host family, I think, just totally, like, changed my view of study abroad and, like, really, really made me feel welcome in this place. And it was just such a great experience to be so welcomed by somebody. The city is just beautiful. It's right on the beach, and I was there in the summer, so I basically went to the beach every day. I would go to class. My class ended at noon, and then I would just go to the beach for basically the rest of the day. So it was like heaven. It's just a beautiful city. They have everything a city would have, and then the beach, and then there's mountains all around, and so there's hiking, and there's the beach, and there's incredible food, and the architecture is beautiful, and they have great museums, and it's just an incredible place. And also, I haven't talked about this yet, but the USAC faculty in San Sebastian was just incredible. Just some of the nicest people I've met, genuinely there to support the students, would check in with you. Like, I became friends with the people who worked there. And so, yeah, I think San Sebastian is such a nice city. I think people there enjoy their lives so much that they just can't help but also make sure that you enjoy your time there. So it's just an incredible place. I have no complaints, basically.
And if you go through USAC too, USAC's got good programs and things. I am still amazing friends with my advisor from when I did USAC down in Chile. Shout outs to Jorge. I love you, man. He was really, really good to all of us as students and was just an amazing friend. So not to interrupt, but like the USAC faculty, at least from both of our experiences, absolutely killed it. So can't go wrong with USAC, at least for these two programs. Anyway, continue though.
Yeah. Then Sevilla was, like I said, an incredible city. spending the actual like 5 months there was amazing. And I really like, if you can study abroad for a semester or even longer, I really recommend it. It's so important to really get your footing in this place and like almost become a local, like, because you learn so much about just like, you know, how you would like live in the real world in a different place. And it's just, it's so cool, like getting to know a new place. Yeah, I learned so much in Sevilla. I took great courses. I really challenged myself, and it was a great city. Yes, that's why it's my number 2. Then Lyon is my 3rd. I think I didn't have the cultural connection like I do to Spain with France. And so I found Lyon to be a lot harder for me to adapt, which also was a great learning experience. It's still a great place to study. It's still a great city. It's very nice, very easy to get around. Yeah, I think just for me, I felt a lot more comfortable in Spain. And also, like you said, Spain is like the Florida of Europe, and life in Spain really is. It's just like, it's easier and it's more fun. And like in France, you feel a little bit more like serious things are happening. You're like, okay, yeah, like, yes, I'm a student. Yes, like this is the real world, you know? So yeah, I think just out of like, because I didn't feel as connected to it, Lyon was probably my last one.
But all 3 great experiences.
All 3 great.
Nothing terrible. Don't be discouraged if you think about going to Lyon and going to France. My next question too, you touched on this a little bit through each one, but as a food guy, as a culture guy, what were the best or maybe the meals that you remember the most, either in general or maybe you got one from each place?
Okay, I'm gonna say a weird one for Sevilla. So it got to springtime in Sevilla, and all of a sudden everyone was like my host dad was talking about it, and there were signs everywhere. Caracoles. Caracoles. Do you know what a caracol is?
Snails, man.
Snails. Yes. And they were totally different from like French escargot, which are like kind of like bigger snails. These were like these tiny, tiny little snails. And
like ones you could pick up off the concrete kind of snails?
Like tiny, tiny.
What?
And yeah, so I had caracoles. They were actually like pretty good. And like they're just super tiny, and they have like this kind of this yellowish, I feel like it had like curry in it or something, like sauce. And so yeah, caracoles in Sevilla. In San Sebastian, my host mom made a great tortilla de patata, which is like super Spanish food, which is just eggs, potatoes, onion, and it's basically like an omelet, but kind of different. You have to go to Spain and try tortilla, basically. She worked for a really famous chef, actually. He did like this whole television broadcast, and she worked on like his team. And so she had slowly been like observing his recipe and adapting her own recipe. And basically like every Spanish family has like their own tortilla, like the way they make it. She made a really good tortilla.
So like highbrow family food.
Yes. And then Lyon, just pain au chocolat, chocolate croissant there was a boulangerie just across the street from my like residence hall. And this is just like a random little bakery. And the woman who like ran it, like she loved me and my roommate. She gave us free stuff, and she was so happy to see us every morning. And like that pain au chocolat was just like incredible.
You are making me miss that so much, because we had a corner boulangerie when I was staying in Paris, and that woman did know who I was. And honestly, she was probably not a big fan of me because I do not speak French. What little French I have is so broken. And I ordered the same thing every time. And she was just like, yep. Here you go. Same thing. We'll see you tomorrow, but hopefully please not. The more simple foods too, I've found in a lot of my travels and studies, were also just some of the best ones. Like I didn't need such an insane, beautiful, big blended cultural food. Just the simple stuff really worked. I mean, people are picking up snails and cooking them in curry, and it's not some kind of big experience like French escargot. They're just like, no, they're right here. Might as well have them. And trust me, if you're on the fence about eating snails in any form, they really don't taste like anything, and texture is really not a problem either. It just tastes like whatever you get them cooked in. So if you get them cooked in something good, then it's good. I don't have any problems with that.
The snails were like the event of the season. Like the second those like snail signs came up, like everyone, you'd walk past all the bars, everyone's eating caracoles. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to try it. It's a big thing.
I need to ask my friends who are Sevillanos if that is like such a big thing to them, or if they're so over it and you're just like, snails, there's snails everywhere, man. I don't actively think I want to like seek out eating snails for anything, but if they're on the menu, I'm gonna try. Or I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna have it. I at least would like to be polite. And that's the other thing too about Spain is if y'all ever go and you get paella, if anyone ever tells you the paella is authentic, it's not authentic if it don't got snails in it, because authentic paella has snails in it. So we found that out. We found that out the hard way. But again, I'm not too averse to snails, so I wasn't having any problems with it. That's a good food talk. And to wrap us up here, and I've really enjoyed what we've been talking about, your three different, but also like you're seeing some of the patterns flowing through your experiences. I want to ask about the songs that defined each of your study abroads, and is there a story behind any of them?
There are stories. Yeah, I'll go in chronological order. My first song from Sevilla is called La Leyenda del Tiempo, The Legend of Time, by Camarón de la Isla, which is a very famous flamenco artist. And I learned about this song in my flamenco class while I was in Sevilla, and this song was like super like controversial when it came out. It came out in the 70s, and because it had like a bunch of like fusion elements of like more popular music coming into flamenco, and like people were totally like just thrown aback by you can't change this traditional music and make it modern. It's also a really good song. So that's my first song. I think also just coming into Spain and like I like myself like I'm like a fusion of like Spain and other things, and so I feel like it's kind of representative of like the things I kind of found out about myself while I was in Sevilla, and also representative of civilian culture with the flamenco. For San Sebastian, my song is called Toro, which is the word for bull, by El Columpio Asesino, which I actually heard this song live because this band came and played in San Sebastian while I was there at this jazz festival that they have every year there. And also my host brother Nico like loved this song, and so he played it a bunch in the house like the week that the band was coming. So that song's really good. And then my third from France, from Lyon, is Zombie Boy by Lady Gaga.
That seems kind of off tone here.
Because my friends and I went out one night in Lyon, and we met this group of French guys, and they were talking to us, and one of them just randomly started telling me about how much he loved Lady Gaga. And he told me he loved this song, and it's a really good song, and I'd actually been listening to it like before I went to France, and as I was in France. And so it was just nice to hear that someone else liked Lady Gaga as well.
And so then when you hear it, you're just like, oh, we're back outside this club in Lyon now.
Yeah.
That's really funny, too, to also find what other people like or take from American culture sometimes, because it's always really niche, odd, like weird stuff that like you know of, but you're also kind of like, why? One of my examples just personally, this is not a music related one, but it's kind of in the same vein of like okay. I had a Chilean friend when I was in Chile who I had known through the internet years before, and I finally met, and it was great, and I got to meet his family, and we had a really good time. And I'm a big soccer fan. As we're recording this, I am wearing a Mexican national team jersey. You can't see it, but just know that this is who you're dealing with right now. But I was asking them about what their favorite football, soccer teams were in Chile and like in general. And they're like, no. We're not a football family. We're a football family. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? And he goes, American football. We love American football. The dad of the family, he goes, I pay to get American football broadcast here. So I am sitting in this community in southern Santiago, Chile, in the middle of October, watching the Chiefs and the Broncos play in some Chilean guy's house, and he is into it. They are huge Denver Broncos fans, like massive Denver Broncos fans. First of all, ugh, I'm a Chiefs fan, so gross. But I was like, what in the world for Chileans? Because, yeah, like there's Mexicans, there's those communities who really like football, or like Puerto Ricans who like football, you know, more kind of U.S., closer in proximity, Latino countries that like football. But in Chile, And yeah, he wanted to talk football with me, and he loved that he had an American there to watch American football with him. And so those are the kind, and he even said, he goes, football, as in like soccer, is such a hooligan sport. He goes, I am on another level now, and I am watching American football. And so it's things like that of like, oh, you ran into some French guys who really love Lady Gaga for whatever reason. I ran into Chileans who are obsessed with the Denver Broncos and love American football. It's those things like that that I really love getting to learn from study abroad, and just taking away from these human beings that we meet, just such genuine interactions from that.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, I love that so much. So I'm going to close this out here. And by I say me closing us out, I'm going to let you give this time to tell us what you're involved in. What do you want the people to know? What are Koro Castillo's final thoughts?
Okay. Well, okay, I'm involved in the university in a couple different things. I'm the president of Honors Students for Unity and Progress, and I'm a member of the honors program. And if you're an honors student, study abroad counts for experiential learning, which is something you need to graduate with honors. So it's great because it gets you a lot of experiential learning credits, especially if you go on multiple study abroads. So it's a great option for honors students to study abroad. What else am I involved in? Oh, I'm in Club Bilingüe, which is for Spanish for heritage speakers of Spanish. So if you're a heritage speaker and you want to join Club Bilingüe, they meet in Phillips Hall on Thursdays, like every other Thursday. Just look at our Instagram and you'll see it. That's a great club if you want to get speaking Spanish with other heritage speakers. And I'm also a study abroad peer mentor, which means you can reach out to me whenever. I'm on the international programs website. If you have any questions about study abroad, all the study abroad peer mentors are super passionate about talking about study abroad. They're really helpful. They're really excited that other students want to do it. We just love sharing our experiences and helping people who do want to go abroad. As a study abroad peer mentor, I would say like just go abroad. Like it's such a great experience, and I don't think there's any way you could dislike it. It's just, yeah, do it.
You know, if you ever find someone who has not liked going on a study abroad, I want them on this podcast. I want to hear that story, but I don't think it exists. I don't think this person exists at all. So thank you, Koro, so much for coming on here, talking about your experiences, especially as a fellow triple threat, 3-time study abroad alum. I think your perspectives are really, really insightful. And, you know, if you are someone who has studied abroad once, but maybe is looking to go a second time, and maybe within either the same place or just in general, definitely talk to Koro about that, because it is, it's, if you get the opportunity to study abroad multiple times, you really should continuing to expand your horizons, build those connections, and just learn and have fun with it. So yeah, huge thank you, Koro. This has been amazing. And I thank you very much for listening to this, and we will see you wherever and whenever in the world next time. Thanks for listening.